rest. And rest can look different for different people. So today, we will rest in reflecting and refocusing our minds through receiving some inspiring tips and suggestions for dealing with everything that is on our plates. And we are also going to make a meal with a simple cooking demonstration to show that meal preparation doesn't have to be another daunting task on your never-ending to-do list. Prayerfully, we will all leave with a renewed sense of purpose and a meal that we can enjoy for yourself or share with your family. So before we move forward, I want as many people as possible to join in on what I believe will be a great time together. So I need everyone's help. Please do me a favor and hit the like button and share the link to a friend, neighbor, co-worker, family, or anyone who could benefit from this experience, or anyone who says they don't know how to cook. All right. Well, my name is Brother Brandon Sims, and I'm the health and wellness leader here at the church. And I'm also a certified health and nutrition coach with my business Operation Sims Fitness. I am joined today with a very special person that we all know and love, Greater Gethsemane's very own First Lady Stephanie Thomas, who is an amazing life coach with her business as well. So trust us, you are in for a treat. So let's jump right in. How many of you can relate with me that after working all day or being out all day, the last thing you want to do is cook? In order for me to stay on track or on target with my personal health goals, meal preparation is key. Because in doing so, the likelihood of me deviating from my plan is slim to none. This morning, we are going to prepare a one-pan meal. Something, again, simple, quick, and easy that will leave you all satisfied. For those who receive the grocery list, you should have all the ingredients out and ready for use. For those just tuning in, it's okay. We are making roasted salmon with potato wedges, green beans, and carrots. One of my core health values is eating real foods. And so what does eating real food mean, right? It is food that has minimal ingredients, but it's full of nutrients, vitamins, and minerals. For example, the roasted salmon that we're going to create, right? The ingredient list, pretty simple, salmon. But, you look at a fish stick, right? What are the ingredients in that? You have the fish, you have the wheat flour, you have the vegetable oil, you have the corn flour, you have the sugar, the whey, the yeast, you understand? So it's basically, again, I'm not knocking fish sticks, but all I'm wanting to make sure is that you understand the difference and what I mean by real foods. All right, so let's get into the preparation. First, let's make sure our ovens are set to 400 degrees. All right, so that's happening. While that's getting ready, you should have your baking pan sheet all ready with your parchment paper. I already have mine set up. So you get a baking sheet, again, baking pan with the parchment paper. If you don't have parchment paper, aluminum foil works as well. All right, we'll set that to the side. All right, and again, with the parchment paper, another thing about meal preparation is the cleaning afterwards. So this will help us to not have to clean as much when we're done, all right? So again, let's get our potatoes first. All right, now you can go ahead and rinse them off, pat them dry. Right, get some paper towel for that. All right, awesome. Again, simple dish. go ahead and get your stuff. All right, so what you want to do is get the potatoes and cut them in wedges. So I know some people are like, well, don't you have to boil the potatoes first? Like, well, no, you don't. The idea of boiling potatoes whole is because you want to make sure that you cook it all the way through. But by cutting them in small diced wedges, it'll be able to cook through and you'll be able to have fully cooked potatoes. Or if you're old school and you would like to do the boiling, that's up to you. But we are keeping it simple here, right? All right. So I don't know if you're cooking for a family or if you're just cooking for yourself, but you would cut as many potatoes as you need for your dish. And I have, you know, kids, wife, friends, so I need to make sure that I have enough to go around for everybody. All right, so cut those up. And what you're going to do is, after you're done cutting them, we're just going to put them all on your baking sheet. All right. Again, this is a 1-pan meal, so everything goes on the sheet at the same time, or cooks at the same time. All right. Cool. Some of you probably cut a little bit faster than me. That's fine. We're going to put these on the sheet. And we're going to move on to our carrots. So again, on your sheet, everything has its own place. All right. We'll get some carrots. Move on to the carrot sticks. If you got, I've already pre-washed these. I also bought the ones that are labeled as pre-washed, but always wash your vegetables, pat them dry, wash your produce. Now you may be saying, why are we even cutting these carrots that are already small enough to eat, right? Same principle as the potatoes. Like, yes, you can just cook them whole. What I want to do is just slice them in half, all right? Take your time with that. I don't want anyone to hurt themselves. All right, so it should be very simple. Get some carrots in there. All right. And this is where we're going to, one of the optional ingredients on the list is honey. So after these carrots and everything has cooked, there will be an opportunity, if you choose to put a honey glaze on the carrots. Trust me, it's going to taste amazing. If you've never had roasted carrots before, you're in for a treat today. Okay. All right, I'm going to move on to the green beans. All right, nothing much with these. Again, everything has its place. Just spread them out. So the other reason why you can get fresh green beans, which is totally fine. You can get frozen ones, try to thaw them out if you can, or let them defrost. The reason why I get frozen is because, again, have some picky eaters in the house, and I want to make sure that I had the opportunity to save vegetables. So I may buy fresh or I may buy frozen. Either way, I'm trying to conserve. So these are, again, some tips that you can use for your own self if you're not used to cooking Just again, some tips there. All right, got some green beans. All right, and before I touch the salmon, we're going to season the vegetables. Again, all in their sections. So you should have your black pepper, your salt, your extra virgin olive oil, right? All these great things. Again, I feed a lot of people, so I buy in bulk, so I have big sizes here. And then you're just gonna do a glaze, just a drizzle of the extra virgin olive oil right on that. Get a little bit on there, a little bit there, okay? Just a little bit, nothing too much. Sprinkle some black pepper. Now when it comes to seasonings, everyone has their preferences or their restrictions. So please be mindful. You can use the seasonings that are on the list, or you can use what you normally use for cooking. But salt, just be mindful of the salt. Don't want too much. Okay, just a little sprinkle. All right, now with the potatoes, we're going to do a little extra with that. So that's where you're going to get your garlic powder and your onion powder. And you're going to put that on there as well. Okay, just on the potatoes. Little sprinkle there. And then again, the onion powder. Meal prepping can be fun. You know, you can put some music to it, make it enjoyable. Also, the oregano. You should have some oregano as well. Put that on the potatoes. All right. And then just gonna mix it in. All right, simple. Just make sure everything's on it. Looking good there. All right. Make sure you do the same thing with the green beans. It's all there. All right. And then we're going to come back afterwards to put our salmon in, right? As soon as your oven's done, make sure you pop this into the oven. And then you'll be good to go. What we're now going to do is talk to First Lady, transition to her, and she's going to, again, give us those tips and suggestions that we need. All right? I'll see you later.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so glad to be here and to be able to talk to you about what's on your plate. First and foremost, I just want to thank Brother Brandon Sims, who gives leadership to our health and wellness ministry. I want to thank him for all that he does in general for the ministry, but also what he's doing today to get us set up for healthy eating and letting us know what that can look like with proper vegetables and seasonings and all of that. I don't know about you, but I'm getting kind of hungry. I also want to honor my husband, Dr. Reginald Thomas, who has been the pastor of Greater Gethsemane. This year, we celebrate 30 years of pastoral ministry. So I just want to honor him today as well. So now I want to talk a little bit about what is on our life plate, right? So some of you all might be able to relate to this. Growing up, whenever our plate was fixed, We were expected to eat everything, everything on our plate. We heard things said like, I need you to clean your plate and you better eat all of it. Don't you know there's starving children in Africa? Now, I know I'm not the only person that heard that growing up. Well, my hope today is that you will gain some tools to look at your plate a little differently and to be open to considering some plate adjustments. So today I'm going to focus in on 3 specific things that will encourage us today and perhaps as the days to come. First and foremost, I want us to identify what's on our plates. Secondly, I want to investigate why some things are on our plate. And then thirdly, we're going to ignite how to make adjustments to our plates. So let's jump right into it. Identifying what is on our plates, and that's very important. When I just talked about being younger and having our plates fixed for us, that was the result of someone else fixing our plate for us. So we didn't really have control over what was on the plate. But now that we're a little older, a little more mature, we actually fix our own plates. So I want you all to complete a task to help identify what's on your plate. Now, this will be a little bit difficult to do because we have some time restraints. So we'll consider this a home assignment. So you can do this a little bit later. But what I want you to do is take a piece of lined paper, like regular notebook paper, and I want you to fold it in half. So basically, you're going to create 2 columns. You're going to fold that piece of paper in half. And this exercise may actually run over to a second piece of paper, so have that available if you need it. But take the pieces of paper, fold them in half, and on the left side of the column, so it's going to create 2 columns with the fold. The left side of the column, I want you to list everything that you do, everything that you're responsible for. Now, you don't have to go into specifics in that column. You can use general headings, like you could use parenting, or that you are a caregiver, or that you are a spouse or significant other, that you work out or exercise. So just start listing some of the things that you do and some of the things that are on your plate. And we'll come back to that a little bit later. But secondly, the next thing we're going to do is, after we complete our homework or start thinking about those things, we are going to start identifying what's on our plate, and then we're going to shift and we're going to investigate why some of those things are on our plates. Why are those things even on our plate? Our plates are filled with some things that we said yes to, that in some cases, maybe we just should have said no. Remember, this is important, that our yes can be very expensive. And my question for you is, how much has your yes cost you? How much has yes really cost you? Are some of the things on our plate, from invitations we said yes to? Think about that for a moment. Are our plates full because we just take on too much? Maybe I would say we might consider the fact that we have some boundary violations. Having too much on our plate can be a sign of a boundary red flag. When it's challenging for us to maintain healthy boundaries, we tend to take on things that really are not ours to take on. It's kind of like a buffet. Imagine, if you will, that we are at life's buffet and we see all the different things on the buffet, right? And we see all of those opportunities as blessings from God. But we also overlook the fact that sometimes we view and see those opportunities as a sign that we're valued by others and that we are needed. So sometimes those opportunities that we seize are because we have a need to be valued by others and that we have a need to be needed. Sometimes we make certain choices because of our pain. Sometimes we make those choices and put things on our plates because of past trauma, current trauma, and sometimes it's because of our neediness. Now, I'm not a therapist, I'm a life coach. Some of those issues that I'm talking about today might require going to see someone and getting some professional help in those areas to help unpack some of those things a little bit and understand why we make the choices that we make. So once again, I am not a therapist and I'm not trained to diagnose anyone by any means. I'm just lifting these things because these are things that we may need to think about and be aware of as we place certain things on our plate. Sometimes we're tempted to see invitations and opportunities on this buffet as obligations and requests. We see those as demands that we have to pursue, right? We don't see that we have a choice. Sometimes we get drawn in because, let's face it, sometimes we have opportunities as minorities, and sometimes because we're viewed in marginalized roles, we see certain opportunities as a chance to have a seat at the table. And saying no will mean that our voice won't be represented. Let me see if I can make this a little bit more clear. Me as an African American female, if I have a chance to do something and I'm the only African American female on a panel in a particular area of leadership, I may say yes to that opportunity just because I feel like I have to be the voice in that room. I have to represent other African Americans or other females in that place and in that space. But I'm here to tell you, as we consider what's on our plate, even in those spaces, we have an opportunity to consider saying no. We don't always have to be the voice for the voiceless. We have an opportunity to say no. So it's important to pray about those decisions before we put those things on our plate. A helpful way, we were talking about boundaries. A helpful way to maintain appropriate boundaries is to really be clear about what is actually our work. We need to identify what is required and what is desired. And then think about whose requirement and desire is it? Who is requiring that of us? Are we requiring that of ourselves? So think about that as we move on. We need to ask the right questions of ourselves. Being a life coach, one of the biggest things I do with my clients is ask them questions revolving around the goals that they've set and the things that they're trying to reach and the goals they're trying to accomplish. So asking questions of yourself can help you get a clearer understanding of why you do certain things, why you make certain choices. So asking the right questions of ourselves helps us to see that we do have choices to make and we have possibilities to consider. So when things are on our plate or the possibility of things come up to potentially be put on our plate, we need to ask ourselves the right questions. This is critical because sometimes we might be tempted to see obligation and duty when making decisions about putting things on our plate. Now, sometimes, think about this. Sometimes our plates are full because, quite frankly, we don't want to disappoint people. You know how it is. We'll say yes to something because we don't want to disappoint somebody. Or sometimes our plates are full and we make decisions to put things on our plate because we want to be seen a certain way. Or we just say yes and we just take that thing on. Other times is how we think doing that particular task will make us feel. Like if we say yes to this, that might make us feel powerful, or that might fill a void in our life, or we might be looking for some validation, or we may look for some prestige in making that decision to say yes and put that on our plate. I'm here to tell you, although feelings are important, and it's important to consider the feelings, feelings can be on the bus of our lives, but feelings should not drive the bus. Again, our feelings are important and we need to consider them, but they do not need to drive the bus. So let's keep on going and let's dig a little deeper. Do our plates feel full because we spend too much time on what I will call energy vampires? That's right, I said energy vampires. Those are the people in our lives, you know the type, they drain you of energy. They just drain you of energy. They are energy vampires. They drain your energy in an attempt to fulfill their own needs without replenishing us. You know the folks. We really try to avoid spending time with them because they just exhaust us. And really, they have this same effect not only on us, but on other people as well. So they have some common behaviors. Some of these energy vampires, they always play the victim. These are the people that are constant complainers, and they don't take responsibility for their own circumstances. You know, these are people that also call and text when they need something or they're in crisis. But when you need something, they ghost you. They don't answer anything, your texts, your calls, you can't find them. So these are what I call energy vampires. And in most cases, these energy vampires don't really know the impact that they have on people. But we need to set boundaries to safeguard and manage our energy. Well, I smell some really good things happening in the kitchen right now. So we're going to pause for a few moments and we're going to shift and we're going to see what Brandon has going on. We're going to check on some things in the kitchen and come right back.
I know First Lady is giving us some good tips in there. We're going to get back really quickly. We're going to check on our food. And we're also going to get the salmon into the oven now. All right. So let me get my gloves real quickly. So if you have your salmon out, you can go ahead. If you have fresh salmon, that's great. If you have frozen, I hope it's been defrosted already. If you do have the frozen one, go ahead and pat it dry. Make sure it's completely dry. It's going to help to make things a little, less soggy in the oven. All right. So I have already patted my salmon on both sides. All right. And now the seasonings that we're going to use for the salmon, some of the usual suspects, right? So we have the onion powder, the garlic powder, black pepper, salt, oregano, extra virgin olive oil. One of my favorite and go-tos is smoked paprika. All right. So if you were able to get this at the grocery store, or if you have any and you choose to use it here, please just take a quick smell of this. Oh my goodness. It just makes you think about like barbecue chips or barbecue sauce. If you look at the ingredients on the back of those things, smoked paprika is one of those ingredients. So no wonder it has a very flavorful smell. And then I'm going to use a little bit of hot sauce. Now, some people are like, oh, hot sauce is too hot for me. I'm using it in the cooking process versus an afterthought, like a ketchup or a mustard, right? All right, so I've mixed all these in already. So just do a little bit of each. Again, seasonings and everything is going to be up to you. But get it. I'm just going to coat it in the pan, in our mixing pan. All right, get all sides. All right. All right, we're going to share the love with that one. Get some other salmon in there too. All right. We can add more seasoning if need be. But again, we're just going to coat everything. Doesn't have to be a lot. I'm going to put some more on here. Again, let the seasoning be of your choice. I'm going to go in. Let's get into the oven and get these. We're going to put the salmon on our plate. So I got the parchment paper going. All right, I'm going to flip the vegetables. We got a roasting thing going on. I love it. All right. Alrighty. Okay. Again, go ahead and put your salmon in there as well. And then put it back into the oven and then allow it to continue cooking. All right. So now we're going to shift it back to Lady Thomas so that she can continue to give us those tips. All right. I'll see you later.
So, right before the cooking break, we were talking about those energy vampires. I just want to pause really quickly and help us to consider the fact that sometimes we feel overwhelmed and we lack energy, and it may not necessarily be something additional that we put on our plate, but it might be something in the health realm that we need to talk to our practitioner about and really get a better understanding of what is draining our energy, right? So it's Women's History Month, and it's important for me to just share this little tidbit. I'm not sure if there are any persons that are watching like me that are of a certain age. And one of the things that we've been hearing a lot more about, and it's been normalized talking about it, is menopause. And one of the symptoms of menopause is that draining and that lack of energy amongst so many other symptoms. So I would encourage you, if you are feeling overwhelmed, to consider the fact that sometimes that sense of drain and lack of energy, it could be coming from something health related. So I would encourage you, male or female, to talk to your healthcare provider and dig a little deeper and get the necessary tests so that you can get a better picture and a better understanding of what might be draining your energy, because menopause is real. As Tabitha Brown says, she calls it perimenopause and menopause. Has so many symptoms, from teeth, issues with your teeth, heart issues with your heart, and so many others. I know we focus in on hot flashes, and that's real for a lot of us. I know me, I always carry my fan with me wherever I go. But one of the other symptoms is fatigue, some memory fog, things of that nature. So with all that said, when our energy feels depleted, it may be a sign of something medical, and it might be something that we need to get checked out. So that's very important. So I'm going to go back to talking about the energy vampires. We need to identify what those are, or who those energy vampires are in our lives, and we need to learn how and when to engage them. Having boundaries will help preserve some of that energy related to them. So now we have identified the what, we have investigated the why, and now we want to ignite how to make some adjustments to our plates. So let's talk about creating margins and self-care. Yes, I said self-care. Now, this might be a challenging thought for those people like me that are type A people who like to champion multitasking and time management and getting it done the right way, scheduling everything. We are the folks who, if we aren't intentional, we can fill every waking moment with some planned activity from our schedule. And I understand there has to be some element of that, but there also needs to be some things to consider in the way of margin, right? When this happens, when we overschedule ourselves, then self-care becomes just another thing to squeeze in, another line item on our to-do list. So that's why we need margin. Margin is free space. You know, on that notebook paper we have on both sides, they're called margins, and they're there for a reason. It creates free space on the page. It's that time that is intentionally left open to allow us to slow down. Slow down. Breathe throughout the day. Margin leaves room for the unexpected, because you know life be lifing. So there's unexpected things that happen, and the margin allows us to have that room in our schedules and in our lives. We need to resist the impulse to say yes to everything and filling every available space with an obligation. I know we think we can be all things to all people, and we run from sunup to sundown and even after sundown. I know we think we can be all things to all people, but we can't. Just look at Jesus. Remember Jesus as he walked this earth and as he journeyed along. He did a lot of things. He healed a lot of people, but he did not fix everyone, right? He stayed true to his assignments. He rested, and he set boundaries. And he's our example, right? So remember, we're talking about igniting our adjustments, right? So we're making some changes or thinking about making some shifts in our schedules, in our lives, and on our plates. We need to set boundaries around our time. We can't create time, but we can create margin. Margin makes time for self-care. And I want you to remember, self-care is not selfish. And self-care looks different for everybody, right? Self-care does not have to be costly. I know sometimes we as women, we see self-care as getting our nails done, getting our hair done, right? And that can be seen as self-care. But self-care can also be sitting on a park bench, right? Taking a hike. Self-care can be journaling. Self-care can look so different. Self-care can be painting a picture, right? So self-care is different for every single person. So it's important to know that margin and creating margin helps us to have time for self-care. Creating margin also includes biblical practices like the Sabbath. Is Sabbath on your to-do list? Marva Downs, in her book, Keeping the Sabbath Holy, she shares 4 aspects of Sabbath. There's ceasing, resting, embracing, and feasting, right? Ceasing, resting, embracing, and feasting. Today, I'm just going to focus in on ceasing. At its core, Sabbath is about ceasing from labor and focusing our thoughts towards God. In the book that I mentioned, in Dawn's book, she highlights that Sabbath is ceasing from striving, from anxiety and worry, and from the pressure to be productive. I want to read a little bit from Mark chapter 6, verses 30 through 32. Again, I'm going to read from Mark chapter 6, verses 30 through 32. And it reads, "Then the apostles gathered to Jesus and told him all things, both what they had done and what they had taught. And he said to them, 'Come aside by yourselves to a deserted place and rest a while.' For there were many coming and going, and they did not even have time to eat." Verse 32, "So they departed to a deserted place in the boat by themselves." Now, y'all, have y'all ever been so busy like they were in verse 31, where it says they didn't even have time to eat? Can you imagine that? I can. Sometimes my days are so full, I get to the evening and I'm like, wait a minute, did I eat today? The word rest in this verse, in verse 31, means to make to cease, kind of like an intermission or a time of refreshment or refreshing. If we feel our plates are full or just kind of overwhelmed, our plate makes us overwhelmed, maybe it's time for an intermission. You know, when we go see plays and things like that, concerts sometimes, they have like an intermission. It's time for the actors to be able to take a rest and take a pause and be refreshed before the next half. Or it's also a time for those that come to see the play to grab something to eat, get something to drink, use the bathroom, all of that. So intermission, taking a time to cease in our lives, is very important. Now, I know what I'm about to say is countercultural, but Sabbath is an invitation to cease our activity and rest in God's peaceful presence. I know we sometimes see rest and being still as something negative. I know sometimes, for me, I'll be a little bit transparent. It's hard for me to just sit. I am the multitasker, right? So if I'm watching a movie, I'm folding laundry. If I'm doing this, I'm also trying to do this. But it's important for us to take time to cease and to spend time in God's presence. So what does that look like? I'll give you a few examples. So A Sabbath can be finding time during the day to take intentional, mindful moments. Just take some time. Maybe it's during your lunch break at your desk, right? So maybe it's in the morning. So maybe you get up a little bit earlier. I know for those who aren't morning people, that's not a good choice for them. But whatever that looks like for you, carving out that space to have those small times to really be alone with God, that's important. Also, I want you to pay attention to your self-talk. You know, when we are overthinking things or we become critical, overly critical of ourselves and of others, we need to learn how to take those thoughts captive. The Bible tells us to take those thoughts captive. And during that time, instead of having negative self-talk, we can work on repeating some affirmations to build ourselves up. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, which is a very familiar passage of scripture, says for us to submit everything we do to the Lord, and He will lead the way. We need to acknowledge that we need His guidance and we need His hands in our plans. So I'm going to say that again because we're dealing with what's on our plate, right? We need God's hands in our plans. As we submit our plates to God, He may really direct us to shift some things, to move some things around, to change up some things. Remember, our growth can be connected to giving up things, right? So sometimes in order to grow, we need to give up some things. I'm remembering in God's word when He talks about Him being the gardener, right? The vine dresser. Pruning by the gardener requires necessary endings and necessary losses. But just remember, to everything, there is a season. Pruning now, making those adjustments now, can set us up for our growth season. So I have a question. What are you holding on to on your plate, right? Maybe our growth perhaps is tied to our ability to be pruned by God. So we're holding on to it. We don't want to release it, and God needs to prune it so that we can grow. In what areas of your life responsibilities are you over-functioning? These are just some questions for us to ponder and think about as we think about our plates and what it looks like and how we can make adjustments. Maybe perhaps there's something that you can delegate to someone else. Maybe not the full task. Maybe there's part of a task that you can consider delegating to someone else. What is it that you might really just need to release altogether? And it might not necessarily be something that's bad. It might be something that's good, but if God did not direct you to put that on your plate, or if it's something that maybe it's good, but this is not your season to be handling that or dealing with that on your plate, right? So we might want to think about what needs to be released. Some of us have been praying for some things, but those things we've been praying about, they actually require us to have some space on our plates that we don't have. So maybe it could be that God is waiting for us to make some shifts and some changes so that He can give us or bless us and move us in certain situations, but we need to make that room on our plate. Remember, your plate might be full right now, but God is with you. Talk to Him. Talk to God. I'm a witness that He will hear your faintest cry and He will answer by and by. There's an old hymn that I thought about that one of the senior saints at the church I grew up in, Ebenezer Baptist Church, and she used to sing this hymn. And part of the words, part of the lyrics in that hymn says, "Footprints of Jesus leading my way, footprints of Jesus by night and by day. And if I follow, life will be sweet." So you might be overwhelmed, but God is not overwhelmed. So footprints of Jesus leading the way, follow his lead. Think about, what would Jesus do in this circumstance? Richard Swenson, in his book, The Overload Syndrome, says that we can listen to the world that says rest is idle waste, or we can listen to Christ when he says that rest is a divine gift. Rest is a gift. Rest is a gift. I cannot say that enough. Rest is spiritual, right? So go ahead. If you have the opportunity, take that nap. Nap is good. I know I'm a believer. I love my after church nap, and I know I'm not the only one. So rest is a divine gift. Matthew 11:28 tells us, if we are weary and heavy burdened, right? If we are weary and we carry heavy burdens, to turn to Jesus and he will give us rest. Verse 29 through 30 goes on to encourage us to take on his easy, his comfortable, his well-fitting, his pleasant yoke, and learn from him, and we will find rest for our souls. Y'all, his burden is light. His burden is light. If we're looking for rest, if we're feeling overwhelmed, if our plates are just overwhelming us, these verses tell us how to find rest. It's there. So I just have a few closing words as we remember to identify the what, investigate the why, and ignite how to make our plate adjustments. I want you to remember your homework, right? I talked about writing down, getting the paper in case you weren't here for the first part. Part of the homework in identifying what's on your plate, I encouraged everyone to, as part of their home assignment, is to get a piece of lined paper, like notebook paper, fold it in half, and on one side to list the things that they are responsible for, the things that they have to do. So then what I want you to do is I want you to circle and focus on the priorities, right? The priorities. Everything on that list is not a priority. Everything on that list does not qualify to be urgent, right? It might be important, but it might not be urgent. So I want you to circle the priorities. And then as you pray about those things, I want you to ask God for direction. Now in the second column, the right side, I want you to list the things that you're going to work on transitioning off of your plate, or some things that you want to scale back or delegate to create more space. And finally, keeping all this in mind, I want us to remember that God is the one that provides the plates in the first place. He gave us the plates. He is our creator. He is our sustainer. And he is the one who orders our steps. He's the one that has a plan for our life, right? In Jeremiah, God has a plan for our life to prosper us and not to harm us. Plans to give us hope and a future. So he's the one that has a plan. So always follow his lead. I hope some of these things were helpful for you as we were talking about what's on our plate and helping to identify and how to make changes and how to ignite change. And now, as I'm again smelling some wonderful smells from the kitchen, Brandon has been doing an excellent job working with us, helping to understand the seasonings that we need to place on our food and ways that we can cut stuff up. I know I love carrots. He talked about putting honey on the carrots, and I like glazed carrots, and I am a fan of smoked paprika as well. So we are going to transition over to the kitchen. I'm just so thankful to be able to have this time to share with you today, and I'm looking forward to seeing what our plates look like as we transition over to Brandon. So have a great day and happy early Resurrection Sunday.
All right, everyone, we're getting things going. We are taking a few more minutes for the salmon. All the vegetables should be rocking and rolling already. Again, if you want to put some honey on those carrot sticks, you can do that right now. And also, again, optional, if you want to put some barbecue sauce on the salmon, you can do that as well once that's ready. In order to know when the salmon is ready, make sure you get your fork and kind of flake it just to see if it comes up correctly. If it doesn't, add a little bit more, a few more seconds to it, another, a couple more minutes to it. But we're going to transition back to First Lady just for some quick Q&A, and then we'll get back to the rest of the event.
Okay, so we have received a couple of questions in the chat that I would like to respond to them. So I'm glad we have this opportunity to chat. So one of the questions is, how easy should it be to clean our plates? Should it take a long time? Well, I guess that really depends on how much you have on your plate, right? And how open you are to making those changes. Like I said during our chat earlier, some of the plate cleaning might require some therapy, right? So sometimes things take time. That plate did not become full overnight, or at least I don't think so. So it might take some time to unpack that and really peel back the layers of the onion and ask yourself those questions. Sometimes when we're evaluating, the questions might take us some time to answer. We might need to sit with those questions and really take a deep dive and try to figure out, why are we doing these things, right? What is motivating us? Because for some of us, our motivation might be certain triggers or certain trauma, like I talked about before. So it's important to understand that this may not be a quick fix. We might be able to focus on a specific task or a specific thing. And as we focus in on that one thing and kind of peel back that and take a deep dive and a sharper look at that one thing, then maybe we can find some things that we can delegate. Maybe we can find some things within that we can make some small changes to make adjustments. So I'm hoping that that answered that person's question. The other question I got: what should a healthy plate look like, both literally and in lifestyle? So Brandon would be more apt to answer this question about what a healthy plate looks like. I would suggest a actual literal healthy plate would have healthy protein, green leafy vegetables, a healthy starch, because not all starches are healthy. And I think it's important also to have color on your plate, right? My family always jokes me because I will eat oatmeal, but I put a little blueberry in my oatmeal. I try to eat leafy greens a lot, so I do eat a lot of salads, but they joke me sometimes because I don't always get it right, but I try to avoid dairy and certain things. So I think a healthy plate, from my perspective, and Brandon will potentially chime in, is to have a healthy protein, lean protein, fish, which is good in omega-3s, and a green leafy vegetable to kind of help you round that out. Now, as far as our life plate, a healthy life plate is one that has balance, right? There's time for the things that you need to take care of and that are your responsibilities, but also there is space on your plate for spending time, recreational time with friends and family. That's important, right? Family is important. And also taking the time for self-care, whatever that is for you. But I think a healthy plate is about balance. It's about boundaries, being okay with saying no, or not right now, or I can do this part of it, but I can't do all of it. So creating those boundaries, creating margin in your life can help you set up for a healthy plate and what a healthy plate looks like. It's all about, just like I talked about the physical plate where we eat, we have the different things and segments. I think a healthy plate, a life plate, has certain aspects of it. So we want our, if you will, our green leafy vegetables, and we want our protein, our lean protein. So our obligations, self-care, time with family and friends, recreational time, all of that. And I think we have time for one more question. Is setting the margin something you suggest doing every day? If so, what suggestions do you have on prioritizing that time so it doesn't end up being the scraps of life left from your day? So that can be, and it's up to you. I think it is an opportunity for you to be intentional, right? We don't want to have everything so scheduled. But if we create the necessary margins in our life, then it doesn't become scraps, it becomes intentional. So I talked about possibly even waking up a little earlier so that we have some marginal time, or cutting back on certain things in our routine so that we can create margins and have space. So everything is not so rigid and so scheduled that we can't have time just to sit and breathe and have real conversations and checking on people. Sometimes just a text to tell somebody that you are thinking about them, to whisper a prayer for someone, right? So creating those margins, it is an everyday thing because we need to be intentional about what we're doing and what we are agreeing to take on and what we are delegating. So it's a constant looking and it's a constant reevaluating. So asking ourselves questions. Again, as a life coach, part of what I do in helping people reach their goals, whether it is to take something off of their plate, whether it is to segue into another area that they want to focus in on, part of what I do is ask them the necessary questions and help guide them and direct them in ways that they can reach their goals. So I hope that was helpful. I hope I was glad to answer some of those questions. And I do know that we have some questions of Brandon that he will ask in just a little bit. So I'm excited again as we move and we begin to plate our food and get ready, that we are just going to feast on this delicious salmon and vegetables. And it is just wonderful aromas going on over here. So I hope you are experiencing great aromas as well. So I thank you again and just have a great afternoon. Do something intentional.
All right, everyone. What time is it? Looks like it's, oh, good afternoon. I really appreciate, thank you, First Lady, for giving us those tips. Self-care is so important, so important. So I know we're in the Q&A. I hope everyone got a chance to, if you wanted to, put the sauce on your salmon or not. If you wanted to, put the honey on your carrots or not. But you can see the product here, just a little sampling of everything. But I do want to make sure that we get to your questions that I see that we have here. It says, what are some good meal prep options if you prefer not to cook? So if you don't prefer to cook, there are several meal services out there. Some where if you just don't want to cook, don't want to deal with the messy cleanup or anything, they have meals. I'm actually currently using Factor, where the meals come already portioned, already categorized with all the ingredients. what's in it, how much protein, how much salt intake is in it, everything. So it really shows everything so that you just don't have to do anything. You can just pay for it. There's other options. Again, if you do want to cook but don't want to go shopping, right? You can get the grocery list. You can do Instacart and just check out all the things you want to do there. They'll ship it to your house and then you can cook. Or if you don't want to do Instacart, you just want the meals and all the groceries to go with it. I forget the name of HelloFresh is another example where they give you all the ingredients already portioned for a 2-family or 4-family, and then you are able to cook. And that's an opportunity where you can get the whole family involved, get the kids involved as well. We've done HelloFresh in my house as well. So from either, again, cooking at home or just having it given to you, there's always an option. So there's never an excuse where you just have to go to, let's say a fast food restaurant. Nothing against them, but there's something about a home cooked meal that's just different. So another question here. What should a healthy plate look like, both literally and in the lifestyle? So I actually have, that was a very good question. This is something that I've shown my kids and I also use as well. It's called the Be More Healthy Plate. And it has on here the different sections where you can have your proteins, your whole grains, your fruits, and your vegetables. All right, so there's different combinations you can do with that. You can have, half your plate full of fruits and vegetables, which is the top half here. Like I said, you can just have vegetables, forget the fruit. You can mix and match how you want. But this is just an example of a literal plate of how you can plate your food when you're serving your family. And then just a healthy plate, literally, and I think First Lady has already given us those tips, but definitely the self-care, being mindful of what you take in, the things you're listening to, the company that you keep around you, all those influence the things that are on your plate. So yeah, and let's see, any other ones? What is your favorite or ideal meal? Wow, that's a good one. To be honest, I absolutely love my air fryer. To be honest, I would have cooked this meal in the air fryer if I had an air fryer big enough. But air fried salmon is delicious. It's crispy, everything. But my ideal meal would be roasted chicken. I do like chicken. So roasted chicken. I'm a big broccoli guy. So broccoli and some steamed rice. And then some, I'll call it a half and half, but a homemade half and half, where you can brew your own tea and then use the lemon juice as well, mix that together. There's a recipe for that, but you can make your homemade half and half versus, getting the Minute Maid version where there's corn syrup and everything in it. So there's options out there where you can still get what you want, but get it in a healthier way. And I think that is it. First Lady, how did you like the food?
Delicious. It's delicious. I'm a fan of all of this. I'm really enjoying myself, especially the salmon.
Yes.
Good job.
And
good job, Chef.
Yes, and if you did not get an opportunity to make the lemonade, it's on the recipe list, but we also have the lemonade here. It is 1 cup lemon juice, 1 cup sugar, and then 6.5 cups of water. Mix that thing together. Again, different from the Minute Maid lemonade, where again, it's the corn syrup and other ingredients that you just don't want. Minimal ingredients, lemon juice, sugar, water, right? Simple ingredients, just keep it simple, right? When you're thinking about eating or just having a healthy lifestyle, it's trying to keep it simple. Don't make it complicated because when you make it complicated, then people fall off track, right? You know, people's like, oh, forget this is not for me. I want to make sure that everyone feels empowered, that they can take control over the health of their lives, right? It's these little lifestyle changes that can be made that can make a huge difference in how you know, live the rest of your life. So with that, I thank you all for your time. Please remember that tomorrow, in person and on live, Facebook and YouTube, please join us at our 9:30 service, where Dr. Thomas will be preaching a mighty word. So be there, beat me there, all right? So it's going to be packed house, so we want to make sure that you get there, get early, get your parking spot, all that good stuff. But just make sure you're in the building. And if you can't be there, that's okay. Again, we have Facebook Live and YouTube as well. But again, thank you, and we'll see you tomorrow. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.